6 years. That's how long I worked double shifts at the manufacturing plant while she pursued her PhD in psychology. 6 years of me getting up at 4 a.m. coming home at 8 p.m. just so she could focus entirely on her studies. 6 years of ramen dinners and skipped vacations because every penny went toward her tuition, her books, her research conferences. And on graduation day, May 15, 2021, she thanked me by handing me divorce papers at her own celebration party. The venue was some upscale faculty lounge at the university. I'd never been there before. Honestly, I'd never been invited to any of her academic events. I was wearing my only decent suit, feeling completely out of place among all these professors and PhD students discussing theories I'd never heard of. But I was proud of her. Despite everything, I was genuinely proud. She was mingling with her colleagues, that bright smile she always had when talking shop. Professor Michael Reynolds, her dissertation advisor, kept praising her research on interpersonal dynamics in asymmetrical relationships. Whatever that meant, I was standing by the refreshment table, nursing a plastic cup of punch, when she approached me with this envelope. "Here," she said loud enough that several people nearby could hear. "I have something for you." I thought it was maybe a thank you note, something sweet. After all, this was supposed to be our celebration, too, right? I'd sacrificed just as much for this degree as she had. I opened the envelope. Divorce papers already filled out, already notarized. "Congratulations on your PhD," I said, looking directly at her. "When did you have time to prepare these?" Her face didn't even flush. "I filed last week. Now that I have my degree and can finally be independent, I don't need to carry dead weight anymore." Dead weight in front of her colleagues, in front of people who had no idea I'd been funding her entire academic career while she contributed exactly zero to our household. The conversations around us started dying down. People were staring. Professor Reynolds looked uncomfortable and tried to change the subject, but the damage was done. I took out my pen, the same one I'd been using to sign overtime sheets for 6 years, and signed every page. Right there, didn't read them, didn't argue, just signed. "There you go," I said, handing the papers back. "Congratulations again on both achievements." I set my cup down on the table and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I could hear her trying to explain something to the group, but I also heard a few of her classmates laughing, actually laughing. As I reached the door, I heard one of them say, "Well, that was efficient. Most divorces take months." Another voice, I think it was Dr. Thomas Mitchell from her department, said she finally lost her burden. Good for her. More laughter. I didn't turn around. I walked to my car, got in, and drove home to our house. Well, her house now, I suppose. I had some phone calls to make and some decisions to finalize because if she thought I was dead weight she'd been carrying, she was about to find out exactly how much weight that was. The funny thing is, she had no idea I'd already been planning my exit strategy for months. Not because I wanted a divorce, but because I'd been applying for positions with my company in other states. Better opportunities, better pay. I was going to surprise her with the news after graduation. A fresh start for both of us. Turns out, she just saved me from having to negotiate the timing. When I got home, she was still at her party. The house felt different already, like it was never really mine to begin with. I looked around at our kitchen, our living room, our bedroom, and realized she was absolutely right about one thing. It was time for both of us to be independent. I pulled out my phone and made the first call to Spencer Crawford at our Colorado facility. He'd been trying to recruit me for 8 months. Time to take him up on that offer. Spencer answered on the second ring. Well, finally ready to join the winning team. "When can I start?" I asked. "How about Monday?" He replied. "I've got a position that's been waiting for you. Senior Production Manager, $68,000 starting, full relocation package, Denver facility. Deal." That was Thursday night. I had exactly 4 days to disappear from my current life. Friday morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day handling logistics. First stop was our bank. Well, my bank now. I closed our joint accounts and moved everything to a new account at a different institution. She'd contributed maybe $3,000 total over our entire marriage. So, I left exactly $3,000 in a checking account with her name on it. Fair is fair. Next was the house we were renting and the lease was in both our names. I called our landlord, Mrs. Helen Caldwell, and explained the situation. She wasn't surprised. Apparently, she'd been through 3 divorces herself. You want off the lease? She asked. She can qualify for it solo now that she has her fancy degree. I left her the furniture we bought together, but I took my personal items, my tools, and the television I'd purchased before we got married. I also took the coffee maker. Call it petty, but I bought that thing with my overtime money after working a 14-hour shift. Saturday, I arranged for a moving truck. Not a big one. Turns out when you've been living paycheck to paycheck for 6 years, you don't accumulate much stuff. Most of what we owned was either hers or purchased for the household. I took what was mine and left the rest. She came home around noon, probably expecting me to still be there waiting to apologize. What are you doing? She asked, seeing the boxes. Moving out. You wanted independence, remember? I didn't mean immediately. We need to talk about this rationally. We already talked at your party in front of your colleagues. You made your position very clear. She tried a different approach. Look, I was stressed. It's been a long 6 years and I said things I didn't mean. We can work this out. I stopped packing and looked at her directly. Tell me exactly which part you didn't mean. The part where you call me dead weight or the part where you said you don't need me anymore? She couldn't answer that. That's what I thought. Where are you going? She demanded. Somewhere that appreciates the weight I carry. You can't just leave. We have responsibilities. The rent, the utilities, everything. Your responsibilities now. You're independent. Remember, this is what independence looks like. The moving truck arrived at 2 p.m. 2 guys helped me load everything in 45 minutes. She stood in the doorway watching like she couldn't believe this was actually happening. As the truck pulled away, she followed me to my car. This is insane. You're overreacting. Am I? You spent 6 years letting me work myself into the ground so you could get your degree. The moment you didn't need my financial support anymore, you served me divorce papers at your own celebration party. What part of that suggests I'm overreacting? I never asked you to work double shifts. You never asked me not to. She was getting desperate now. Where will you go? What will you do? I'll figure it out. I'm pretty good at carrying dead weight, remember? Should make me valuable somewhere. I got in my car and rolled down the window. The utilities are being disconnected Monday morning. The lease needs to be transferred to your name only by Wednesday or Mrs. Caldwell will evict both of us. The divorce papers you prepared so efficiently, they're on the kitchen counter signed and ready for filing. Wait. Oh, and congratulations again on your PhD. I'm sure it'll open lots of doors for you. I drove away and didn't look back. Not once. Sunday evening, I was in a hotel room in Denver, Colorado. New job starting Monday. New apartment lined up for the weekend. New phone number already active. The only people who had my new contact information were Spencer, my new landlord, and my mom. My mother had been surprisingly supportive when I called to explain the situation. Good, she'd said. That girl never appreciated what she had. Monday morning, I walked into my new job wearing a crisp white shirt and that same suit from the graduation party. Spencer introduced me to the team as the guy who's going to revolutionize our production efficiency. Funny thing about starting over, it's a lot easier when you're used to carrying weight. 3 years in Denver changed everything. The first promotion came after 8 months. Spencer had been right about revolutionizing production efficiency. I implemented a scheduling system that increased output by 23% while reducing overtime costs. The company noticed. By year 2, I was assistant plant manager. By year 3, I was running the entire operation. Salary went from $68,000 to $89,000 to $115,000. Not bad for dead weight. I bought a house in Lakewood. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, garage, decent neighborhood. The kind of place I dreamed about during those double shift years, but never thought I'd afford. And then there was Melissa. I met her at a company training seminar in year 2. She worked for one of our supplier companies, had a PhD in industrial engineering from Colorado State. But here's the difference. She treated me like an equal partner, not like hired help. When she found out I'd been running production facilities for over a decade without a degree, she was impressed, not condescending. Experience trumps theory every time, she'd said. I can calculate optimal flow rates all day, but you actually make it work on the floor. We'd been together for 8 months now. She had her own house, her own career, her own life. When we spent time together, it was because we wanted to, not because either of us needed the other to survive. Meanwhile, back in my old state, my ex-wife had been busy trying to find me. I knew this because my mother called me every few months with updates I never asked for. She called one evening. Mom would say, wanting to know how to reach you. What did you tell her? Same thing I always tell her. That you're doing fine and you don't want contact. Good. The attempts weren't subtle. She tried reaching out through old coworkers at the plant. My former supervisor, Bradley Stone, told me she'd shown up there twice asking for my new address. Brad told her he didn't have it, which was true. I'd made sure of that. She'd created fake social media profiles to try to friend me. I deleted my accounts entirely after the second attempt. Who needs Facebook when your life is actually worth living? She'd even called my old dentist, Dr. Richard Foster, trying to get forwarding information. He told her he wasn't allowed to share patient information, then called to warn me about the attempt. She seemed pretty desperate, he'd said. Kept saying it was urgent family business. Did she mention what kind of family business requires contacting an ex-husband? Nope. But she didn't look like someone with urgent family business. She looked like someone with regrets. The most persistent attempts came through our mutual friends. My buddy Nathan Quinn got calls every few months. She wants me to give her your number, Nathan told me during one of our quarterly phone calls. And you tell her that I don't have it, which isn't technically a lie since you made me delete it and only call you from blocked numbers. I've been very clear with everyone from my old life. Anyone who gave her information about my location or contact details would lose access to me permanently. It sounds harsh, but it was necessary. I'd spent 6 years being taken for granted. I wasn't going back to that. The funny part was hearing about her struggles through the grapevine. Turns out having a PhD in psychology doesn't automatically translate to career success. She'd been working part-time at a counseling center making maybe $35,000 a year. The house rent had gone from $1,200 monthly to $1,400 when she renewed the lease solo. Without my income, she'd had to get a roommate. Nathan mentioned she tried dating, but nothing had worked out. She keeps comparing everyone to you, he'd said. Which is ironic considering she threw you away. She didn't throw me away. She set me free. And that was the honest truth. Those 3 years in Denver had shown me what a healthy relationship looked like. Melissa and I split dinner bills. We took turns planning dates. When she worked late on a project, I didn't resent it. I supported it. When I had to travel for work, she didn't make me feel guilty about it. We talked about futures together. Not just her future that I was supposed to finance. The contrast was stunning. I'd spent 6 years thinking I was in a partnership, but I'd actually been in a sponsorship program. I was funding her dreams while mine got deferred indefinitely. Now I had dreams again. Melissa and I were talking about maybe buying a house together next year, something bigger with space for a workshop and a home office. We were talking about traveling to Europe for her company's international conference. We were talking about a future that included both of us as equals. Last month, Nathan called with news that made me laugh out loud. She hired a private investigator, he said. Seriously? Apparently, she saved up for 3 months to afford it. Guy couldn't find you either. Your digital footprint is non-existent and you covered your tracks too well. Good. She asked me to tell you that if I ever talk to you, tell me that she's sorry. That she made a mistake. That she wants to make it right. I was quiet for a long moment, looking out my kitchen window at the Colorado mountains. Nathan, do me a favor. Next time she asks you to pass along a message, tell her this. I got everything she wanted me to get out of our marriage. Independence. That's cold, man. No, that's honest. She taught me exactly what I was worth to her. I believed her. 3 years of peace, success, and genuine partnership had given me clarity I never had during those 6 years of marriage. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was grateful. She'd shown me what I deserved, just not in the way she'd intended. Tuesday, March 7, 2024. I was reviewing production schedules in my office when my assistant Grace knocked on the door. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "Says she's your wife." I looked up from my reports. My wife is at work in Boulder. This person is not. She's pretty insistent. Should I call security? Through my office window, I could see her in the lobby. 3 years older, but unmistakably her. She'd found me. No need for security. Give me 5 minutes, then send her in. I saved my work, straightened my tie, and prepared for a conversation I'd hoped would never happen. She walked into my office like she owned the place. Same confident stride, same expectant expression, but I could see the desperation underneath it now. "Nice office," she said, looking around. "Plant manager, I see. Congratulations. You have 5 minutes. What do you want?" "Straight to business." "I always like that about you." "4 minutes and 40 seconds, I replied. She sat down across from my desk. "I've been trying to reach you for 3 years. I know. You know, I know about the calls to my mother, the visits to my old workplace, the fake social media profiles, the private investigator. I know about all of it." Her face flushed. "Then you know I need to talk to you." Need and want are different things. You want to talk to me. I don't need to hear it. How did you even end up here? You never told me you had experience in management. You never asked. In 6 years of marriage, you never once asked about my career aspirations or what I wanted to do with my life. That's not fair. 4 minutes. She took a deep breath. "I made a mistake." "No, you made a choice. At your graduation party in front of your colleagues, you called me dead weight and served me divorce papers. That wasn't a mistake. That was planning. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to file for divorce a week before your graduation. You were thinking clearly enough to have the papers notarized. You were thinking clearly enough to choreograph the whole thing for maximum humiliation." She shifted in her chair. "How did you find out about the university records?" That caught my attention. "What university records?" "That's how I found you. I accessed your student information through the alumni database. Turns out you have a degree in industrial management from State University. Why didn't you ever tell me? When would I have told you? Between my first job and my second job. During the 6 years I worked double shifts so you could focus on your studies. You assumed I was uneducated and I let you assume it. But why? Because it didn't matter to you then, and it doesn't matter to you now." 3 minutes. She was getting frustrated. "Stop with the countdown. I drove 12 hours to get here. That was your choice, too. Nobody asked you to come. I had to see you. I had to explain." "Explain what?" "That you're sorry. That you didn't mean it. That you want me back now that you've discovered I'm not actually the dead weight you thought I was." "I never said I wanted you back." "Then what do you want?" She was quiet for a moment. "I want to know why you disappeared completely. Why you cut off all contact. Why you won't even let me apologize." I leaned back in my chair. "You want closure?" "Yes." "You want to feel better about what you did?" "I want to make things right." "Things are right. For the first time in years, things are exactly right." "You're angry." "No, I'm not. I was angry for about 2 weeks. Then I was hurt for about a month. Then I was grateful. Grateful. Grateful that you showed me exactly who you were when you thought you held all the cards. Grateful that you freed me from a marriage where I was valued only for my paycheck. Grateful that you gave me the push I needed to build a better life." She looked around my office again, taking in the certificates on the wall, the family photo of me and Melissa on my desk. You're seeing someone. I am. Is it serious? 2 minutes. Answer the question. Serious enough that we're looking at houses together. She's got a PhD, too. But she manages to treat me like a partner instead of an employee. That hit her. I could see it in her face. I never treated you like an employee. You treated me exactly like an employee. I worked. You benefited from my work. And when you no longer needed my services, you terminated my position. The only difference was most employees get severance pay. That's not fair. Fair would have been a conversation about your feelings before the divorce papers. Fair would have been not humiliating me in public. Fair would have been acknowledging that I sacrificed my own goals to support yours. She was crying now. Not the manipulative tears I remembered from our fights, but actual grief. I messed up. I know I messed up. Yes, you did. Can you forgive me? I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd loved for 8 years, supported for 6, and hadn't spoken to in 3. I already have forgiven you. That's why I'm not angry anymore. Then why won't you, 1 minute? Why won't you give me a chance to fix this? Because there's nothing to fix. You fixed it when you handed me those divorce papers. You fixed my life by removing yourself from it. She stood up, desperation turning to anger. So that's it. 8 years of marriage means nothing. 8 years, I corrected. We were married for 8 years. And you're right. Apparently, it meant nothing to you. It meant something to me. It meant security to you. It meant someone else paying your bills while you pursued your dreams. But it didn't mean partnership and it didn't mean respect. Grace knocked on the door. Time's up, I called out. My ex-wife gathered her purse and headed for the door. Then she turned back. I hope you're happy. I am genuinely happy for the first time in years. Good for you. There's one more thing, I said as she reached the door. What? Thank you. For what? For being exactly who you were when it mattered most. You taught me what I actually deserve. She left without another word. I watched through my window as she walked to her car, a 10-year-old sedan that had seen better days. Then I picked up my phone and called Melissa. How was your morning? She asked. Interesting. I'll tell you about it tonight. Are we still looking at that house in Arvada this weekend? Absolutely. I think it's the one. Good. Me, too. I hung up and went back to my production schedules. I had work to do and for the first time in 3 years, I was completely certain that the past was exactly where it belonged. She didn't leave. I watched from my office window as she sat in her car for 20 minutes. Then she got out and walked back toward the building. Grace's voice came through the intercom. She's back. Says she forgot something. Send her in, but this time leave the door open and stay within earshot. She walked in looking more composed, but I could see the calculation in her eyes. This was her backup plan. I lied, she said, sitting down again. I didn't just come here to apologize. I know. You know I drove 12 hours and hired a private investigator. That's not apology behavior. That's desperation behavior. What do you actually want? She took a deep breath. I want you to come home. I am home. This is my home now. I mean, come back to me. To us. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out my phone. Do you remember what you said at your graduation party? We already covered this. We covered what you said to me, but you said more than that, didn't you? Her face went pale. What are you talking about? I scrolled through my contacts and found the number I was looking for. Nathan Quinn was at your party. Did you know he records everything on his phone? Old habit from his journalism days. You're bluffing. I hit the call button and put it on speaker. Nathan answered after 2 rings. Hey, stranger. How's Colorado treating you? Good, I said. Nathan, I've got a situation here. Remember that recording you made at the graduation party? The conversation after I left. Oh, that recording. Yeah, I still have it. What? Could you play back the part where my ex-wife is talking to her colleagues about losing her burden? Sure. Hold on. There was shuffling. Then Nathan's voice came through the speaker. Here we go. The audio quality wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. Her voice, slightly drunk, talking to her academic friends. Honestly, I should have done this years ago. He's sweet, but he's holding me back. No ambition, no education, just content to work in that factory forever. Now that I have my doctorate, I need someone who can match my intellectual level. Another voice. I recognized Dr. William Mitchell. Harsh but practical. You can't build a future with someone who peaks at shift supervisor. Her voice again, laughing. Exactly. I mean, I appreciate everything he did for me, but that was then. This is now. I need a partner, not a dependent. More laughter from the group. Nathan, that's enough, I said. Want me to play the part where she talks about finding someone in academia? No, that's sufficient. Thanks. I hung up and looked at her. She was staring at the phone like it was a weapon. That wasn't. I was drinking. People say things they don't mean when they're celebrating. Do they? Or do they say things they mean, but don't usually have the courage to say out loud? I didn't mean any of it. Which part? The part where I have no ambition. The part where I peaked at shift supervisor. The part where you need someone who matches your intellectual level. Or the part where I was holding you back. All of it. I was trying to fit in with those people. Those people who became your closest friends over 6 years of graduate school. The people whose opinions mattered enough that you wanted to impress them by humiliating your husband. She was crying again. I was stupid. I was insecure. I was trying to sound sophisticated. You were being honest. For probably the first time in our entire marriage, you were being completely honest about how you saw me. That's not true. I opened my laptop and pulled up a document. Would you like to know what I was going to surprise you with after your graduation? What? A job offer here in Colorado. Plant manager position, $85,000 starting salary. I've been negotiating with them for 4 months. I was going to surprise you with a move to a place where you could pursue your career without the financial pressure of supporting both of us. She stopped crying. What I was going to tell you that night after the party, I had champagne chilling at home. I was going to propose a fresh start for both of us in a place where we could both thrive. But you never told me because you handed me divorce papers first. Because you made it very clear that you saw our marriage as a business transaction that had outlived its usefulness. I didn't know you were planning that. Of course you didn't. Because in 8 years of marriage, you never once asked what I wanted. You assumed I was content to work double shifts forever. You assumed I had no aspirations. You assumed I was intellectually inferior. I never said that. You didn't have to say it. You showed it every day. When you talked about your research, you never asked for my input. When you had problems with professors or classmates, you never treated me like someone whose advice might be valuable. When you made decisions about your career, your schedule, your future, you never consulted me as an equal partner. She was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry. I know you are. But you're not sorry about how you treated me. You're sorry that it didn't work out the way you planned. What do you mean? You're sorry that I turned out to be more than you thought I was. You're sorry that your life without me is harder than you expected. You're sorry that you can't find someone else to subsidize your lifestyle while you build your career. That's not fair. Fair would have been treating me like a partner instead of a patron. Fair would have been appreciating what I was sacrificing instead of taking it for granted. Fair would have been having an honest conversation about your feelings instead of ambushing me with divorce papers. I stood up and walked to the window. You want to know what's really unfair? I loved you. Genuinely loved you. I was proud of your accomplishments. I was excited about our future together. And you threw all of that away because you were embarrassed to be married to a factory worker. I wasn't embarrassed. Then why did you never invite me to academic events? Why did your colleagues not know I existed until the divorce party? Why did you introduce me as my husband instead of by name when they finally met me? She couldn't answer that. Here's what's going to happen. I continued. You're going to drive back to your old life. You're going to file those divorce papers and make it official. You're going to build the independent life you wanted so badly. And you? I'm going to continue building the life I started after you set me free. With someone who sees me as an equal partner, with someone who appreciates what I bring to the relationship, with someone who doesn't see my career as something to be embarrassed about. The woman in the photo, Melissa, and yes, she has a PhD, but she also has something you never had. What's that? Respect for people who work with their hands. Respect for people who build things. Respect for people who show up every day and do their job without needing constant validation. I returned to my desk and sat down. This conversation is over. You have your closure. I have mine. What if I've changed? Have you? Or have you just realized what you lost? She stood up slowly. I guess we'll never know. No, we won't, because I'm not interested in finding out. She walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Do you hate me? No, I don't hate you. I don't love you either. I don't think about you at all, except when you force your way back into my life. That's worse than hate. That's indifference. It's what you earned. She left for the second time that day. This time, I knew she wouldn't be back. That evening, I told Melissa everything. We were sitting on the couch in her house, sharing takeout from our favorite Thai place. She actually hired a private investigator. Melissa asked, twirling pad Thai around her fork. For 3 months, according to Nathan. That's not romantic. That's stalking. That's desperation. Melissa was quiet for a moment. Do you think she'll try again? No. She got what she came for, which was confirmation that I'm doing better without her. That's what she couldn't accept, the possibility that leaving her was the best decision I ever made. The next morning, I did something I'd been planning since the day she served me those divorce papers. I pulled out a manila envelope from my home office safe, one I'd sealed 3 years ago, but never thrown away. Inside was a letter I'd written the day after her graduation party. I'd planned to mail it originally, but decided silence was more powerful. Now seemed like the appropriate time. I drove to her hotel. The Hampton Inn on Federal Boulevard was the only decent place she could afford, and left the envelope at the front desk with instructions to deliver it to her room. The letter was simple. You wanted to know why I disappeared. You wanted closure. Here it is. You taught me exactly what I was worth to you when you thought you held all the cards. I believed you. You called me dead weight at your graduation party. You were right. I was weighing you down from pursuing the life you actually wanted. So, I removed that weight. You said you needed someone who matched your intellectual level. You were right. You deserved someone who shared your values. I was never going to be someone who measured people's worth by their degrees. You said I had no ambition. You were wrong about that. But you were right that our ambitions were incompatible. I wanted a partnership. You wanted a sponsorship. The woman I'm with now also has a PhD. The difference is she sees my experience as valuable, not embarrassing. She asks for my input, not just my paycheck. She introduces me by name, not just as my boyfriend. You gave me the greatest gift of my life when you handed me those divorce papers. You showed me what I deserved, and it wasn't what I was getting from you. Don't contact me again. Don't contact my friends or family. Don't hire investigators. We both got what we wanted from our marriage ending. You got your independence. I got my self-respect. We're even. I never heard from her again. 6 months later, Melissa and I bought that house in Arvada. She kept her place as a rental property. Turns out PhDs in industrial engineering are good with investment strategies, too. A year after that, Nathan called with the news that my ex-wife had moved to Seattle for a job at a corporate wellness firm. He'd heard she was dating a professor she'd met at a psychology conference. Good for her, I told him. Hope it works out. And I meant it. I genuinely hoped she'd found someone who wanted the same thing she wanted. Someone who valued the same things she valued. Someone who saw relationships the way she saw them. Just not me. Last week, Melissa and I celebrated our 2nd anniversary. We went to that same place and she gave me a card that made me laugh out loud. To my favorite dead weight, it said inside. Thanks for carrying us both towards something better. She'd heard the whole story obviously. Too dark? She asked, grinning. Perfect, I said. Absolutely perfect. Some people think divorce is failure. I think my divorce was graduation. I finally learned what I was actually worth and more importantly what I deserved. My ex-wife was my greatest teacher. She taught me exactly who I was when I thought nobody was paying attention. Turns out the person I was when nobody was paying attention was someone worth respecting. I just needed to find someone who agreed.